Good day to everyone tuned in. Welcome to yet another webisode of Leaving You with a Thought, episode 7. My name is Fuprondo, and for this webisode I'll be discussing DSTV versus Netflix. Now, as most of you are well aware, DSTV have been a singular lone service provider of pay TV content in the country under MultiChoice, and they've dominated the space for well over a decade. Things in business were going well for DSTV up until 2016 February when a new player came to the market. Of course, over the years there have been some competition, but DSTV has stood the test of time. They've come out as a victor until 2016 when a new player was introduced in the name of Netflix. Now, Netflix is a digital internet-based content provider like DSTV, but only they're internet-based. And in terms of subscription fee, DSTV has been seen as more expensive than Netflix generally. And that's because people are solely looking at the subscription fee that are charged by each service provider per month. Now, I think for us to make a fair comparison between the two service providers, we'll need to consider everything, because very often people only consider the monthly subscription fee, and then that will lead you to assuming or to concluding that Netflix is cheaper. But I think if we look at the entire picture, you might have a change of heart or a change of idea in terms of who's cheaper or which one is better between the two. I'll leave the viewers to decide which one is better. But I think we need to look at three critical components for us to be able to determine which one is better between the two. Now, I'll break them down as the following. I'll look obviously at the subscription fee, which is the bottom line for most people to decide which platform they want to go with. Secondly, I'll look at the content that's provided by each platform. And then lastly, I will consider the ease of connection, or rather the availability of connection thereof, for you to be able to view or to use or access rather the two platforms. Now, starting with the subscription fee, for Netflix you'll be charged around 160 rands per month for you to view and stream the content that they provide. And then for DSTV, considering a premium subscriber, which is the market that they've seen a loss in, you'll be charged around 956 rand per month. So now, if you take that over a year, an annual period, or over a period of 12 months, DSTV will charge you around 10,000, a little bit over 10,000 rands for you to be able to access their content. And then Netflix will charge you a little bit less, a little bit more over 1,900. So it's less than 2,000 rand. So if you consider just those two factors alone, obviously Netflix comes out as a better option for you to use. But remember, for you to be able to access Netflix, you need internet, because it's a digital internet-based service provider or content provider. And for you to get a decent line or to get decent streaming or viewing for Netflix, you need typically a 10 megabyte per second line, because you need a high-speed line for you to stream the content uninterrupted. So for cheap, reasonable, fast line, be it ADSL or fiber, you will need to pay around 9,600 and some odd rand. So that's the amount of money you'll be parting ways with on a yearly basis. So you add that to the, let's say, 2,000 rand monthly subscription over a 12-month period that Netflix is charging you. That amount will take you to around 11,000 something in total. Now, you compare that to DSTV, who's charging 956 per month. Over the same period of time, you would have paid 11,000 rand and some change. It could be a little bit less. So is Netflix really cheaper? You decide. Now, the second component I want to talk to is regarding the issue of content provided by both services. Now, if you consider DSTV on the lower base market that they have, or that they have an option for, which is your compact and the other packages that they offer, you realize that in terms of content, DSTV actually is offering a lot, because they actually offer sport, which Netflix doesn't. And this is international and local football. This includes Formula One that you get to view if you're a premium subscriber. This includes rugby and cricket as well, and Netflix doesn't. Also, if you look at the local produced content like your soapies and dramas, DSTV does offer that, and Netflix doesn't. So depending on the type of person or the type of viewer that you are, or the consumer that you are, now you need to consider, are you ready to consume the Netflix, which is largely American-based content, or are you a consumer that loves sport? Are you a sport fanatic like myself and most other people? Because that's also another reason why most of the people have stayed with DSTV, because they know that DSTV also provides the sport content, whether you like local football, international football, cricket, rugby, basketball, boxing, whatever it may be. And Netflix does not, on the other hand. So when you consider that second aspect of the two, for you to be able to make a fair conclusion based on which between the two service providers on which one is better, which one do you consider the best? And thirdly, is around the issue of ease of connection. Now, DSTV is available for connection everywhere, and it's free for you to connect. So when you start up, you pay the same amount that you'll be paying a month. If obviously you need to buy a decoder, so there's an amount that you'll be charged, around 2,100, whatever, depending on which decoder you buy, and then the connection is free. Now, with Netflix, it being a digital internet-based content provider, you need obviously to install a router or a fiber, which is not easily accessible, because it also depends on the area that you live in for you to be able to get the best out of a service provider. If the service provider does not have presence in that area, you will struggle for you to get fiber content, for instance, or to get fiber installed, for instance. And you might have to settle for a router which might not necessarily be the best option sometimes, depending on the network presence that you have, or the strong the connectivity that the service provider you're using has. So for most people in South Africa, they do not have access to internet, and actually those numbers are shown to be less than half of the population in South Africa have access to permanent internet, connection to internet rather, and less than half of those have permanent internet connection based off the phone, which is not the best device you want to use for you to access either Netflix or DSTV. Actually, over 1/3 of that uses one-third of the people with permanent internet connection uses cell phones to connect as a means to connect to internet. So that will leave you to around 14-15 million people who supposedly have internet. And that's just speaking to the middle class to upper class only. So your numbers are, in actual fact, are much way less than that. So when you consider all these three things, the pricing, when you consider the content being offered by two platforms, and you consider also the ease of connection or the availability of connection, I find it very difficult that one can consider that Netflix is a better option for you to go for than DSTV. But of course, if you already have internet connection and you don't care for sports, you don't care for local content like GateNet or Mzansi Magic, then it makes much more sense to go with Netflix, because you already have internet anyway. But for those who are sports fanatic, or those who like local dramas or local produced content, be reality TV shows or series or soapies, then it's much better to go with DSTV product, because it will offer you much more in terms of content, and Also, when you consider the ease of connection, most people do not have internet, but DSTV is available everywhere. So in that regard, it's up to you as a viewer, as a consumer, to identify what type of consumers you are. But personally, for me, I think DSTV comes on top still. For as long as we're as a subscriber, I still want to view sport and stream sport with ease. For as long as I'm still a big viewer of the locally produced content, be it drama or reality TV, for those reasons alone, I think DSTV is a much better option for me. And also, I just think that with DSTV, and this is a patriotic issue for me, for myself, DSTV offers jobs. It creates jobs locally in the country because decoders are manufactured in the country. The people who install the DSTV product are South Africans, or rather they are in the country, so it does offer jobs in that regard. And also, when you consider the fact that there's a lot of locally produced content, be it drama, series, be it for sports purposes, or it could be an entertainment channel. If you consider the numbers of people DSTV employ, it's massive compared to Netflix that just comes with its content that's largely based and made for Americans. So for me personally, I think DSTV is a much better option because of those reasons that I've mentioned, plus the ones that I just mentioned now, that it employs a lot of people, and Netflix does not create any job, does not come with any job, because the internet installers already are available in the country, depending on whatever service provider you're using, whether it be Vodacom or Telcom or MTN. Those people are already in the country, so you cannot claim Netflix, you cannot credit Netflix for creating those jobs. So as a result, I feel that DSTV is a much better choice for a South African, if not for the content, but for the mere fact that it creates jobs as well, which is a very big thing in a country where 27 people are unemployed. But I also do think that DSTV will experience more problems as time goes on because people don't have money, and Netflix will only become cheaper as obviously data becomes cheaper, and obviously when internet becomes more accessible to the masses, so people will see it better to subscribe to Netflix rather than to DSTV. And I think sports will play, whoever holds the sport monopoly as a content will probably have the biggest market share. So sports will play a very critical role on who comes out on top. And those are my thoughts for the day. Thank you for watching, and keep tuned in.